Best.Podcast.Ever is brought to you by the Gertzberg Law Firm, a full-service business and litigation firm in Cleveland, Ohio. Practical and results-driven, the award-winning attorneys at Gertzberg Law have both in-house corporate and large firm backgrounds and have built a one-of-a-kind firm that is changing the way clients engage, work with, and pay for their attorneys. Visit GertzbergLaw.com to learn how we're different. Gertzberg Law Firm. We solve problems. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to listen to the best podcast ever recorded.
All right, the banter has officially begun. What are you doing? Where are you going? Oh, you're getting a pen. Hi, Molly Gebler.
Hi, Alex Gertzberg. How's it going?
It goes well. How goes it with you?
It's great. I'm rested. We had a great weekend away.
Ooh.
We rented a lake house.
Yeah.
And we just went there with my sister and her family and just did nothing. We drank a lot. We played a lot of board games. And we just relaxed.
What board games did you play?
You
played Cards Against Humanity. You texted me Leprosy.
Was that the game?
Yeah, Cards Against Humanity.
It was the night version or something.
The night version.
Every game we played was adult version.
The dirty version?
Yes.
You're a dirty girl.
And then Telestrations.
Not familiar.
The evening hour one as well.
Were there kids there as well?
The youngest is a junior in high school, so we were good.
Okay.
We
Lovely.
were good. So yeah, lots of fun, very relaxing. How was your weekend?
It was good. Young Ethan Gertzberg turned 13, and we had a big birthday party in the backyard.
I didn't get that invitation.
You didn't? Because I sent it to you, and because you have small kids. And right. I sent it to anyone we knew.
So there was no adults without small kids at this party is what you're trying to tell me. So do you do the whole hoopla? Like you have games, pin the tail, cake? What's the deal?
What happened was we rented one of those big video game trucks.
Oh.
Yeah. And then we asked the dude to also bring with him a bunch of laser tag guns.
Oh.
And so it was awesome. The kids, we got woods in the backyard, so the kids ran around and
did
played
laser tags in the back. Oh, that's fun.
It was really cool. And then,
fun.
you know what those dudes did, man? They were like, Dad, set up that tent in the backyard so we can use it as our laser tag base, right? And, you know, I went to law school, Molly, because I'm not that good with my hands. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
What takes a regular man 10 minutes in setting up a tent.
Where was Josh? Isn't Josh very campy?
Who, Nellie's husband?
Yes.
Josh? Well, yeah, he wasn't there at that moment. So it took me like, an hour and a half to set up this stupid tent. And by the time I was done, I was like, there you go, kids. And they were like, nah, we're going to go down the street. And that's so old.
Done.
That's so hour and a half ago, Dad. Yeah.
You got to be fast with these kids. Very fast. So I need to make an announcement if I could.
Wait, let's leave a moment for the drum roll. All right, go ahead.
I am very excited to announce that both my Weenus Report and the Pumpkin Roll.
The Weenus Report and the
Pumpkin Roll, which is officially titled Grove Hill, A True Story, have been accepted into the Chagrin Documentary Film Festival.
That's outstanding.
Yes, I'm very excited. The film festival is actually making a whole day out of the Pumpkin Roll, a whole evening. Wow. They're actually extending making it. It usually starts on Wednesday. They're starting it on Tuesday, and they're calling it a community evening. And my film is.
Can I tell you something, Molly? And I mean this from the bottom. One of the reasons I sent you that really nice text the other day was that I'm so inspired by you. This Pumpkin Roll. So let's back up so that the 57,000 listeners we have all can recap, even though we talk about it every episode. The you had this, you spawned out of that bean in between your ears this idea, the germ of an idea came out, the seed of an idea.
Well, the idea was there.
Well, whatever. And then I was trying to be dramatic.
Yeah.
So thank you. It turned into, you manifested this idea into a real thing. And the idea was, hey, let's do a documentary about the great pumpkin roll event that happens every year and has for the last 100 years or whatever.
50 years this year.
50 years. And you put together an entire operation involving like real videographers and interviews and I mean, like the entire town rallied around this documentary, and here you are, what, like a year and a half, 2 years later, and it has been completed and submitted into a legit documentary film festival, the biggest in the world, actually, or one of them.
Top 50 in the world for its price of admissions.
Right. And it'll be at Sundance next year, and Cannes probably sometime between
anywhere
now and
we
then.
can drive, whatever film festivals are in driving.
I'll represent you. I can.
There you go. No, but that's huge. That's a massive accomplishment,
it's
Molly.
Very
nice job.
Exciting, and I'm proud to say that the pumpkin roll, and Emily doesn't even know this, is the only only documentary in the film festival that would be shown 3 times during the length of the film festival.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And someone very famous is coming, and his isn't even being shown 3 times.
Can you say who the famous person is?
You know what? I can't yet. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is making the announcement first.
That he's coming to the documentary film festival?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So he'll go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame first, and then he'll be here Thursday night.
Is he going to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
No, he is not a musician, but his film, one of his screenings of his documentary will be at the Rock Hall, and then another one will be here Thursday night.
If he's any kind of man at all, he should get up to the Rock Hall and say, I'm not worthy to be up here when Molly Gebler is not up in this.
Not enough room for everybody, you know.
Rock Hall.
So yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's awesome.
Very exciting.
Man, Molly, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I'm very excited. I'm proud of the work.
Yeah.
I mean,
you
partnered with R43. They're the producers of the film, R43 Limited, and they're phenomenal. And the quality is just, that's for the pumpkin roll.
Does the documentary that you created have an official law firm?
Actually, it does.
Stop it.
Yes,
is that true?
Yes, the Gertzberg Law Firm.
Get out of here.
Official law firm of the...
That's such a weird coincidence.
The pumpkin roll, yes. And he will be stepping up very shortly to come view it prior to anybody to make sure everything's tight in line. And the mockumentary, you know, you're also the attorney for the mockumentary. The Weenus Report, which will be the opening film of the pumpkin roll that Tuesday night. And I co-directed it with an 11-year-old, Theo Hawk, who is an award winner. He's already won a couple other, and that's a mockumentary. So, yeah, super excited. You know, it's like you're saying, when you think of something and then it just all plays out, and we're very, very close to the finish line. And it's going to be very cool to walk the red carpet or orange carpet, as we're going to have, with a tag that says director on it. That will be cool.
Let's talk about this. Let's unpack this a little bit more, because I really think that people who are not in the creative arts, you might say, all 3 of us are creative people and manifest ideas that are spawned from our heads, right? And I really think that there is this, when it comes out good, which mine never does, but yours does, right? There is definitely, but it's such a special process, isn't it? It's almost like divine. I'm not a religious dude, right? But it is a divine process, isn't it?
By the time this comes out, I'll have seen the final, which I have not seen. I think I've showed you the trailer. Yes. I mean, it is. And just to go through that process, you know, I set up every interview during that. We had to find locations. We had to, you know, and just to see it all together is pretty badass.
Was there
exciting.
Was there any part of making or planning the movie that where you like hit a wall and you got frustrated? And
we did. We were. There was what's the word when everyone is silenced and not allowed to talk? There was a gag order. There was a gag order on anyone that worked in the Chagrin Falls area.
They were not allowed to cooperate with you.
No.
Interesting.
They were not allowed to be interviewed. Now, we have the South Russell mayor interviewed, the superintendent of Chagrin Falls Schools interviewed. It's very well-rounded. It's not a one way or another. I mean, it might be a little bit more sided towards, I think you'll find at the end it's all about tradition and building a bond between that class. But there's the people, we have a couple interviewers who were not fans of it.
And so that was frustrating to you. You felt like...
It was because, although they don't want to be associated with it, they still put up the barricades beforehand. They still clean up after it.
Yeah.
They give the ticket. So there's...
Yeah.
So they don't want to be associated with it, but they're pretty associated with it.
So when you hit that wall, right? And was that like the biggest wall you hit, or was there anything bigger and more obstructive?
Before even starting at the biggest wall is finding that producer, the person that's going to... Because it's a big expense. R43 got involved and did it pro bono because they appreciated the project and wanted to be a part of it.
Right.
But so that was number one. But yeah, I think that would be the biggest one because if you don't have anybody from the town that it happens at, but you won't miss it. You won't.
Interesting. Let's talk about Becky McMahon.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah. This is I consider this to be a get for the best podcast ever.
And it's always a challenge for me in my interviewing techniques, which I try to get better which
you've mastered
program. I don't know anything about the law, so this will be interesting to be able to.
Well, yeah, Becky. So Becky is the executive director for the Cleveland Metropolitan Bar Association and the Bar Foundation. And for those kids at home, that is a giant organization. And so Becky runs it really well. She's on the board of the Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital Foundation and Lake Ridge Academy. She was general counsel at Tri-C, Cuyahoga Community College. She was deputy general counsel at KeyBank. A long and illustrious, is that the word? Illustrious career? I don't know if I'm using that correctly. But
I am probably not one to correct you.
Are you sure?
Tell you if you're wrong or right.
You're a walking thesaurus, Molly. What are you talking about?
I'm just dealing with the email thing you made me put on now that I can't say can't. It has to be cannot.
Who said that?
That's your email thing that you made me put on my... I think of you every time I send an email now because it corrects me. Then it says I'm passive.
Yeah.
That's passive language.
Yeah, passive voice versus active voice. That's important.
Yeah, well, I never changed the passive voice. Right. And then they want me to say you people. They want me to say you people instead of, I forget what I'm saying. It always makes me change to you people. I'm like, I'm not going to say you people. That's weird.
I don't understand the context here, but that's okay. It's not important.
Sorry,
the point is, right? Becky is one of the people.
She's pretty badass.
She is pretty badass. She when we were creating the concept for this podcast, right? And I was thinking of who would be a great guest for it. I was thinking of Becky and folks like Becky, people who have really risen to the top of their field, and she really is at the top of her field. I mean, she's helped. She and the Bar Association have been huge for the Gertzberg.
So when you're in that, she's the executive director of the Bar Association. Do you then not? Are you not an attorney?
No, she's I don't know if she practices, but she's definitely an attorney.
Sure. One's attorney, always attorney.
Yeah.
Right?
You might say that she's
license taken away.
You might say she's the head attorney. Right? She's in charge of all the other attorneys.
She's the queen bee attorney.
Right. Anyway, that's Becky McMahon. I can't wait to talk to her.
Can't wait.
Yeah,
this will be fun.
Let's go bring her in. All right.
Absolutely.
Multiple. This is Molly.
My daughter Natalie.
Nice to meet you. My daughter Emily.
Hi, Emily. I'm Becky.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Is it again? It's
Natalie.
That's it. Natalie,
Nice to meet you.
choose your seat. Well, you have to sit here, Becky.
do? All
Yeah,
right,
this is the
okay.
hot seat. And we're done talking about you behind your back.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
I thought my ears were burning.
We have vodka here. We have scotch that Steve Millard brought that apparently replicates the doomed ship, the Endurance, the scotch they found at the bottom of this shipwreck.
Awesome.
Yeah, that shipwrecked in the Antarctica, in Antarctica.
Did he have papers to prove that?
There's a book.
A book.
yeah.
Okay. Well,
I
that's
mean, that's
good.
not the actual bottle. It's just a
It's
replica.
replicated.
Yes.
All right.
I believe it.
Yeah.
it. So we
Yeah.
have that.
Well,
You
I'm
can't
not a
have
Chardonnay.
Scotch girl. No, I'm not a Scotch girl. Actually, the truth is, I started Whole30 a week ago with like 5 people in my office, so no
is that?
alcohol. You know, it's like a midsummer effort
Yeah.
to do a little better.
Yeah.
Downtown. Yeah, it's a little high. To do better with, one's intake.
Okay.
So there's no booze, which of course is my hardest thing. My poor Natalie's been hearing me say that. It's a challenge. But no sugar, no dairy,
Really?
a lot of veggies.
But no,
fruit.
why no alcohol?
I don't know. And the truth is, I've said twice now I'm going to figure it out because there's no sugar in it.
Right.
Because I'm a
Cer-
vodka girl.
certain- Right, vodka.
I'm a vodka girl, so
She'll come home from work in tears.
no, there's been no
With the
tears.
shakes. She's got the shakes
There's
and she's
been no
angry at
tears.
everyone.
It was only Friday night when I was sitting in a bar with a friend of mine watching the Indians game,
Oh,
and
that's
somehow that's it's
torture.
not good putting yourself in that environment. But otherwise, it's been good. A couple people in my office started it, so I figured, how could I not join in?
It's 30 days. Yes.
30 days. See, who couldn't do anything for 30 days?
Me.
You know, come on. I don't believe it,
Sure,
Molly.
there's a lot of things I couldn't do for 30
What
days.
what day are we on again?
Today's 1 week.
Today's day
Okay.
7.
Yeah,
Day
but
8.
And-
technically 8. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just
well,
for the
wow.
folks listening, she's not shaking.
No.
There's no
I'm pretty good.
shaking. No,
No.
no.
I'm
Good.
not any meaner
No,
than
she
I
hasn't
usually
picked
am.
up her water yet. That's when we'll be able to tell.
Man.
Well,
good-
welcome.
yeah.
But if you'd had me back when I was originally here, I would have definitely had a shot of vodka with you.
Well, we have sequels. We'll have you back
Oh,
when you're
okay.
allowed to drink.
Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough.
Becky McMahon, you hold a very important position here in tropical Cleveland, Ohio.
I am. I'm my daughter's mother.
Right?
Yes.
That's the first one.
Right, that's number
Right.
one.
Uh,
And she is the executive director, Queen Bee.
Queen Bee. That's right.
Yes, which I am also.
I love
so
that.
I felt like maybe you can be Madame,
Ooh.
and that or Madame, executive director Queen Bee, and I'll be executive director Queen Bee. Maybe baby Queen Bee.
Well, actually, the truth is, our receptionist at the Bar Association, Lucy Jackson, she calls me BM, Becky
Okay.
McMahon.
You know that stands for something else. You may
It
want to ask her
does.
what she really means.
Big Mama. We'll
No.
go with that. Yeah, that too on a bad day.
Yeah.
That too on a bad day.
Does she like you?
She loves me. It's
Okay,
mutual.
good.
It's mutual.
You guys have several titles in common besides Queen Bee
And Mom.
and Mom.
and
You're both
executive
executive director
director. Yeah.
of nonprofits, nonetheless.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You guys are like practically twins.
I
We
think
are
so.
practically.
I think
and
so.
I look great in that blue that
I
you're
would
wearing.
love to try that pink.
See, there you
So
go.
We're good. We're
This
good.
is officially.
Alex, are you even
the-
in the room anymore?
I'll see you guys later.
Don't be jealous, Alex.
No, I'm not.
Don't be jealous.
there is plenty of me to share. Trust me.
To be fair, I think I would look good in both the pink and the blue that you guys are
Just
wearing.
not as good as Molly.
Well,
and I.
that's true.
That is so true.
Becky,
Alex.
for the kids listening at home, of which there are 89,000 today,
Wow.
as
Nice.
we sit here.
Congratulations.
Right. In my mind, that's how many there were. A minute ago, it was 57,000. So I was telling Molly how the CMBA was not the CMBA only a few short years ago. It was actually 2 organizations,
Yeah.
right? And that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
and by the so I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about how important Cleveland is in the history of lawyers in general, right? So to have the merger of two very historic bar associations in a very historic legal town, and then to run the merged organization as you do is a pretty big deal.
So my sister is a member of it. Is there anything I can get for her? Well, any things that I can...
Like some swag? Like, what are you
no,
talking about?
I mean, is there any, maybe I'll just slip you her name.
Anything you want,
And,
Molly. I got it.
and if
She's in.
she ever, excellent. If she ever
VIP
needs
member
anything.
of the Bar Association.
Excellent. Well, I'll tell her that. I will definitely tell her that. Is there a laurel or something she could put on her website
yes,
with
sure
that
there
on it?
is. I'm sure we'll talk later about what her practice is. I'm sure I could figure out something just for her.
Excellent. Okay.
Anywho.
Uh-oh. Sorry, back to Alex.
That's okay.
It's about Alex.
No, it's not. It's not at all. No, but so talk
Yes, so-
about what you do for
Yeah.
the unified organization,
Yeah.
and then talk about the history of the town, the two organizations, and the unification of them.
Sure.
Go.
So I run the day-to-day operations for the bar.
How big is it?
So we have about 5,300 members.
Okay.
And we're a nonprofit. We do two things. One is we have the day-to-day business of serving the bar, which are members, what they're looking for, and they're looking for continuing education. They're looking for social opportunities, networking opportunities, fun. They look for lots of community and pro bono free legal programs. I am also the executive director for our bar foundation, which is an organization that raises money to support the community and the pro bono legal programs that we offer. So I just run the day-to-day, but I do it with the best team on the planet. There are 20 of us. We like to say #only 20, because what we do is broader than 20 people ever could do, and we do it because we get to leverage our members.
You would never know there were 20 of you. I can
true.
tell you that it seems like there's a town in there.
Yeah.
There's like the volume of output
Yeah.
that comes out of that bar association is enormous.
It's terrific, and and I've only been there 2.5 years, so I can't take credit for the incredible volume. But I will say it's a great team, and it is very much from the top person to the bottom and back up again. Everybody is dependent upon one another to pull their fair share, and everybody does it. So that's why there's so much that we get to do.
Would you agree with me that Cleveland is a big law history town?
Absolutely.
Right?
And what do you mean when you say that?
So, some of the oldest law firms some of the biggest law firms in the world were founded here, right? Like Jones Day was founded here.
Yeah.
Squire Sanders,
Yeah.
now
Right.
Squire
Patton Boggs now, yes.
Right.
Our immediate past president of our association, Rick Maniloff, came from Squire Patton Boggs.
Okay.
It's a great group.
Yeah.
There's incredible history. But many years ago, the original sort of roots go back to the Cleveland Bar Association, and that's 1873, I think, was the year of founding of that original bar.
Wow.
And in the early 1900s, there was a sense by some, and it's all complicated, so I'll just give you the abbreviated version, but there was a sense by some that they were not getting their needs met through the Cleveland Bar Association. And so there was an effort to create a second bar, and so as the story goes, we became a two-bar town, the Cleveland Bar and then the Cuyahoga County Bar. And over years, there were lots of similarities, but there were also some differences. Traditionally, the county bar represented the smaller suburban lawyer interests. There were also a number of women and lawyers of color who felt that they were not always welcome inside the Cleveland Bar. Some would say that the Cleveland Bar was perceived to be the big downtown law firm or big lawyer bar association. Some of that was true. Some of it probably wasn't true.
And then the little guys felt they needed to
exactly right. And there were, I heard the number once, that there were something like 50 plus efforts to bring the bars together.
Wow.
But it didn't happen until about 10 years ago. So for 80 plus years, there were two bar associations in town that represented the bulk of the
Would
of the
people
members.
belong to both?
Yeah, many
They could,
did.
yeah.
I
Many
did.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And they competed. You know, they were supportive of sort of going in their own directions. They also really competed for dollars, for time, and for attention. And so it was long overdue when they finally came together. We just celebrated 10 years at our annual meeting in June. So it's amazing to think. I remember when the merger happened, and it was a huge deal.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal. The fact that it's 10 years later and it's not a huge deal anymore is awesome. It's awesome. And the fact that we now are really primed for where we're going in the next 10 years and beyond is really what's exciting.
And do you feel that you made any adjustments that you needed to for those little guys versus the big firms getting the same kind of attention?
Yeah, one of my favorite events is coming up in September. It's our third year that we've offered what we call our Small Solo Expo. And it's not where we sit around and have lawyers talk about some of the most esoteric sort of issues of the day that law professors might debate, but rather it's how do small business owners, lawyers, run their businesses better? What does that look like in terms of cloud computing? What does that look like in terms of virtual receptionists? What does it look like in terms of other sharing arrangements?
I think that's something that the chamber should get any information on so that we could then share it with our small business attorneys.
Yeah, we would be delighted. We've sold out the first 2 years, so we're hoping for another sellout.
Sounds great.
It's a great gig.
That's huge, and I'll tell you why that's huge. Because you don't learn it in law school.
You sure don't.
The business of law is such an important part of the practice of law that if all you do is hone your skills as a practitioner, and you don't really know how to, market and retain clients and pay the bills right, or
at least surround yourself with the people that do, like Alex does.
Right. Oh, man, I plugged something here that's important, I think. No, but the point is, if you struggle with that, you stress out. And when you stress out, it affects how you practice. If it affects how you practice, then you're going to have ticked off clients, and...
Well, we can help you with that because one of the other things that's new is that we're launching a series of wellness initiatives at the Bar Association. So we've been hearing from Alex, from a lot of folks just like you who are talking about the stress that the practice of law brings.
Right.
And so one of our committees, we have what's called our Mental Health and Wellness Committee, and they've been around for about 5 years, done a ton of work focusing on the mental health side of the house and substance abuse and destigmatizing, that's a tough word to say with water, destigmatizing what mental health issues like depression, which is, we are one of the most depressed professions out there.
Yeah. You know what the number one is?
Dentists.
Yes. Yeah, and
get that.
Substance abusers.
Well, they're told every day by their patients that they hate coming and seeing you.
I thought it was
that would hurt, I think, after.
I love my dentist.
I know, I do too. He's my dad.
He's a good guy.
If I had to work on people's teeth, I'd be depressed. For sure.
Yeah.
But they don't have to.
That and the other end.
Yeah, right.
Well, we got all kinds of wellness offerings coming.
That's cool.
Because there's been a group now. This is the way it happens in the Bar Association world. If we have something that someone wants, but it's not yet on the menu of options, then if people want to come forward and put it together, then we start offering
Step up.
Yeah, and so starting actually this month in August, we've got, we're going to do a series of what we're calling Wellness 101, which are 45-minute quick bites over lunch or after work. Same program repeated, where you can learn about what the science says about stress in the brain and brain elasticity and lack of productivity and how it compromises both your professional life and your personal life. And then more importantly, we talk about how to manage stress, and it's through the lens of a couple things: mindfulness, and what mindfulness is and what it isn't, and how meditation is a tool that you can use to practice mindfulness. And it's being taught by lawyers. So lawyers who are in this field, Lori Wald, Steve Williger, Dan Messeloff, Irene Ranillo, those are individuals who came forward and said, I've dealt with stress through mindfulness. I've done it through meditation.
Awesome.
And then it's going into, you'll love this, the Chamber would love this, so then it's going into September, October, November, where we're offering what we're calling Wellness Wednesdays. And so every Wednesday throughout that time period, we've got a 1-hour free session that focuses on something to do with wellness. And we've got local area businesses that are donating 1 hour of their free service, whether it's yoga or bar, or chair massages or strength training or whatever.
I love
to come to the bar for free, offered for free for people, as is the Wellness 101, for people to just come in and learn.
So let me tag that.
I might have to borrow. Isn't
come
that
on
the
over.
best?
It's open to anybody.
Best part of a compliment is by borrowing your idea.
Absolutely.
So here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize about the practice of law, especially litigation, but not just, right? Is that in many cases, as a litigator especially, your job is to stress out the other side, and their job is to stress you out, or at least that's how they perceive it, right? And so it is a constant tension. It's a constant application of pressure, right? On top of which you've got pressure from your client, pressure from business, pressure from family, whatever. And so I think that there's a reason why there are so many there was so much alcohol abuse, or was. I don't know if it still is. I imagine it still is. Among lawyers, depression and mental illness. And the other dynamic to it is that lawyers are very type A and are very, we don't like to talk about our stress. We just kind of like to drink them away or go and, take them out. Not me personally, but I know a lot of lawyers who do.
You're not admitting to anything right now. Let's be clear.
Correct. This is
Let's
all
be
With
clear.
the scotch in
We're
his
talking.
hand. It is cocktail hour,
But this
though.
is a celebration of you coming, not a stress of what his day
That's
brought.
And plus, it was like at the bottom of some shipwreck.
Right, we
Anyway.
can't discard
No,
that.
but the point is, I really do believe that lawyers, as members of a profession, we're kind of a different animal.
We are. Well, we
Yeah.
take our clients' stresses
Yeah.
and we internalize them
Right.
as we work through this process of helping them come up with solutions to
I was
fix
gonna-
their problems.
And it's up
Yeah.
almost up to you,
yeah,
the
Yeah.
attorney, to fix it.
Exactly.
All on you.
Yeah.
exactly.
And that's
Right.
And
a lot
part
to
of where,
hold.
and I would disagree that it's litigators who have the most stress. I think there is different stress,
Yeah.
but one of the particular stresses as a former litigator that
Yeah.
comes out is oftentimes clients are really not happy to see you
Right.
when in comes the litigation team, and all they want to do is be done with you.
Right.
And then when the matter is resolved, even if you do it on good terms, they've still spent a boatload of money.
Yeah.
They've deviated from their business plan. They feel wasted at the end. That there really isn't anything tangible
Right.
that's advanced their business of it. So of course
Yeah.
they hate you. So you don't get the feedback that you want. That is, Alex, you're my savior.
Right. And then one more dynamic. You're totally right. The other dynamic that is true across all practice areas is that there are times within a matter, right? Whether it's a closing of a large deal or a trial, where you work crazy hours,
Right.
And you don't see your family, you don't get enough sleep, right? The days before and during trial are, for me, the most stressful times of the year. And there are lawyers here who, during the days before a large closing, right, of a big M&A deal, are sleeping in their office, despite my very strict admonition to go home and see your family. They do that because it's important that they cover all the angles they think they need to cover. That does not help the stress levels. So, yeah, I think that, I don't know if all bar associations do what you're doing.
I think
but
it's amazing.
So important.
Well, I'm going to New York tomorrow. Actually, I fly out first thing for a 5-day conference.
In New York
for
City?
Yep.
Do you need me to come? with
Yeah,
you?
come on along because
Okay.
you could
Molly
be my.
Rock.
I'll drive and I'll meet you there.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
fly.
Yeah. I don't have the patience to drive, so we definitely have to take alternative routes. But we'll be talking about it. It's actually, I get to give a presentation on some things that we're doing for low cost investment, and this is one where we've talked folks into ponying up free service in exchange for us promoting the living daylights out of them. And then we've got after we do these weekly sessions, we're culminating in our first ever De-Stress Fest in November.
Love that.
Yep, our De-Stress Fest on Friday, November 17th, which is the only piece of the programming that'll be paid, but it's going to be a half-day gig that's really going to take a deeper dive in terms of what we've been setting up in the weeks and months leading up to it. So we're excited about it. It's going to be a continuing. It's not a one and done. This is a kickoff. It's a lead up, and the intention is to keep this driving forward. And
I would get that name patent or whatever you need to do
Copywritten.
ASAP.
we got lawyers that are working on
Yeah,
it, as they say.
ASAP, because I want to steal that baby.
Well, come on over. For you, Molly, we'll cut you a special licensing
oh my
deal.
gosh, nobody wants to see if there's yoga or any type of exercise. Nobody wants to see that happening.
Well, you'll have
from me.
options. No, there's other things you can do. I mean, another thing that we're doing is we're getting somebody to talk about 10 getaways that you can do in Greater Cleveland on your lunch hour to just break out of the routine.
I love that. And what's the day of this? I'm going to make sure my
Friday,
sister goes.
November 17th. You should come too.
I might just do that.
Yeah, it'll be a noon and then
love
to an afternoon.
that.
And then, of course, we will conclude with a
Alcohol.
truly happy hour.
That's awesome.
Because that's how you get them there.
That's it. And Whole 30 will be in my distance pass, so
Yes.
I'll be ready to.
Becky,
I just love all about that.
yeah, no, that's good stuff.
It's fun.
When we're done here, I want to talk to you about meditation because
Cool.
Nellie, my sister, is our producer, and she said Alex, you have a bad habit of whenever anyone brings up mindfulness and meditation,
you
getting
get
on your
deep.
high horse. It was a game changer for me. Total. So, but that's all I'm going to say, Nellie. When you're
right.
editing this, I'm not allowed to talk more about
There's
it.
another lawyer that came out in the midst of this who, as we were planning, he's friends with one of our organizers, and I don't think he'd mind me saying, Howard Michigan. I don't know if you know Howard.
Yeah.
And Howard was saying that he is the antithesis of a believer in meditation. He will do everything he can to avoid it, and has told his good friend that he won't do it. But as part of this, he's been hearing about it, so he's our guinea pig. And so he's going to go through this from this Wellness 101 through these sessions then over the next month, and then report out at the De-Stress Fest what impact meditation has had for him.
I love that.
Now, it's a risk. He may tell us nothing.
No, you have to try to hate it for it not to have a meaningful impact on your life.
I can't get there with my brain.
We can help you with that.
Yeah.
We can help you with
There's
that.
so much going on here. I can't clear it all out.
We've got something for you.
But I wonder if you're, in our research, you have an undergrad in psychology.
I do.
I'm wondering if this is playing a great role in merging these two things together, because I would think that would have something to do with it.
Yeah, I have used my psych degree every day of my life since I came out of college. I mean, it really, I knew I was never going to go into clinical psychology or go on to get a master or PhD or whatever. It wasn't, but I just loved how the brain works, how people interact. It just always fascinated me. And so the answer is I use it, and it's why I regularly, when I do a lot of counseling and a sort of informal mentoring with high school students and college students, and I advocate for psychology. More than anything, I think it's translatable to just about anything.
Yeah.
Good tip.
Where did you do that? What school?
Smith College in Massachusetts.
Okay.
It's the western part of Massachusetts.
You're not from there.
No, I'm from, at the time I was in Toledo. I was born in Columbus.
Okay.
But when I was 10, my parents would not allow me to live on my own in Columbus. So I had to move to Toledo with them when they moved.
That was rude.
Wasn't it awful?
Yes.
I was very independent.
10 years
I was
old.
a
You
bor-
could
I was
have
a
done
buckeye.
it.
I didn't want to go to that damn city.
You could brush your hair, right?
Actually, Toledo was great, but I couldn't. When I was looking at colleges, my parents were pretty much uninvolved. I was the third out of 4 girls, no brothers, and by number 3, and I was also, no shock here, their biggest pain in the backside. I couldn't wait to get away from home, and my dad said that I could do any college I wanted as long as it was within 1 day's drive. And so, of course, I said, how long is 1 day's drive? And he said 12 hours. So I went 11 and a half hours away.
I imagine this exercise that you went through where you got that compass that they give you like in 5th grade and you drew a radius around.
Exactly right.
Right?
Right, because we didn't have the Google.
Right.
Right. There was no MapQuest or whatever the predecessor.
You know what? I won't even get it now. That's going to go away. That's just a fad. That whole internet and Google thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sure. Any day now it'll just implode.
It's not going to last.
Yeah.
That and Facebook. That's
Right.
just nothing.
So then you go to college
Yep.
at Smith
College.
Smith College.
It's a tough word, Smith.
Right, right. It'll take me a while.
It's okay.
And you study psychology with
Yep.
the intention of being a lawyer, or no?
Well, no, I didn't really know. From the time I was 7 or 8, I thought I was going to go to law school. I have a couple of uncles. My dad was one of 10 kids. So my dad went off to The Ohio State University. There's my plug.
OH.
IO. And
We get 30 cents for that.
yeah, we'll start making signals here in a second. So he went off, and he had 2 younger brothers who ended up following and went to college. Both went to, one went to Capitol, and the other one went off to Annapolis. But they became lawyers, and so they set up their own law firm, and they did plaintiffs' work and criminal defense work. And I remember being about 8 years old at Christmas. We used to all go down for Christmas holiday with the Ruperts, and there were over 100 people for every holiday since we're so big. And my 2 uncles, one of them asked me one day what I was going to be when I grew up, and I said, well, I'm going to be a lawyer. And they laughed at me, literally openly laughed at me and said, well, we'd never hire you. And I said, why not? And they said, we don't
you're a
hire
girl.
girls.
Oh.
So it was kind of put in there. I was an argumentative kid anyway, but it was sort of there. So in college, I thought about medical school because my parents are both physicians. I spent 2 summers working in a hospital, but I knew absolutely it wasn't for me. It wasn't the right fit. So and I'd spent some other time. I did take a year off to make sure after college to make sure it's really what I wanted. I made some money. I worked for a quasi-legal group, applied to law school, and the rest, as they say, is history.
And you went to law school in
Columbus
Ohio
at the
State.
Ohio State University.
Yes.
That's right.
Another 30 cents.
OH.
So
I needed my Buckeye fix.
Right.
I grew up on Buckeye ball, so.
Yeah.
Is that a street?
No, football, baby.
Oh.
Football, baby. So much for your
all
OH.
people. I know. Trust me.
There was nothing like football on Friday. My parents were faculty members at Ohio
my
State.
gosh.
So this was you're too young. But Archie Griffin, I got to see play every weekend in the fall.
Wow.
All 4 years that he played there. And Woody Hayes was, my dad was his personal physician. So
Oh, my
we used to occasionally stop by the Hayes house on the way home from the park. Mrs. Hayes would be tutoring these incredibly sized players. Anyway, it's a great time.
Huh.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That
So law
is-
school.
Talk a little more about that.
Okay,
That's
here's one more.
amazing.
So when they took out the natural grass at Ohio Stadium the first time to put artificial in, they couldn't figure out what to do with all this grass. So somebody came up with the idea that we would sell it. So Woody called my dad and said, "You want some grass?" So right, exactly, the right kind of grass. So my dad has pictures, or well, my dad's died, but I've got pictures of Woody cutting up a big piece of sod that he threw in the back of my dad's station wagon. That's now, it's been for years. We have a family house over at
Is
Catawba
that
Island.
right?
It's in the front yard. And
Oh,
it's
wow.
segregated by brick. It is our hallowed ground.
So then you kill it in law school, and you're sought after all over the country, and you decide, I'm going to work for this law firm here, right? You worked for Benish? Was that right?
Yeah, but I did stuff before that. No, I didn't kill it in law school. I was a good student, but not a great student. But I had a heck of a lot of fun in law school, I'll say that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I came out, and my dream was to work for the government. I was going to be a public advocate somewhere in the public side of the house. And so I hooked up with the Attorney General's office.
Not literally.
Not
We need to
literally.
be very clear with these people.
Yes, no. I connected to, became a summer clerk, and then was offered permanent employment following law school graduation with the AG's office.
Oh.
And out of the blue, I got a call from then Justice Alice Roby Resnick, who sat on the Ohio Supreme Court. And I had externed for her in law school. And she had a clerk leave unexpectedly, and she didn't like doing job searches, and said, "You want a job?" So I jumped. And I went and I clerked. So the clerkship is what gave me the opportunity when I came to Cleveland, to sort of look around and pick Benish Friedlander.
Was that awesome, clerking for a Supreme Court justice?
It was totally awesome.
I bet.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, people really take for granted what happens. There's 8 justices.
Seven.
7 justices, of
And
course.
isn't one of ours local?
So
O'Neill?
Correct.
Yeah. The weight of the decision affects everybody in Ohio, right? Everybody. And
because then things get written, changed, or
well, so case law is created in Columbus by these 7 justices by a majority opinion, right? And the staff attorneys there, right, have huge influence over what happens, I think, right?
I don't think that's right.
You don't think so?
No.
maybe not with her girl.
I mean, it depends on the judge. There's no question.
Huh.
I wouldn't say it's huge. I would say that they have the ability to sort of shape an argument. The judges the way it would happen is, so once an oral argument happened, the judges would go back into chambers. And by the way, they have this weird schedule where they would, when they're in session, they come down for 2 days, 2 times a month. And again, I haven't checked the calendar lately about it, so it may not be the same, but I think it is. But after an oral argument would happen, they'd go back into chambers, just the justices, and they would talk about the case. And,
Or the cake.
Yeah, or the cake. Cake by the ocean.
Sometimes while eating cake.
Yeah, exactly.
I just got that.
Yeah.
I just got that.
But they would they would talk about it, and then they would decide, whoever was in the majority and whoever was in the minority, they would split up who would take the writing of the opinions for each side. And so it would come out of conference, and we would be told, here's the way it's going to go. So now some of the justices, when I was there were law clerks that were doing lots of heavy lifting for them to help tell them about what the cases were. But the justices, by that point, they really know their minds. They really know their views on things. So I would say, at least in my experience and in my contemporaries at the time, I would say that we had sort of around the edges opportunity to influence them, but they pretty much knew where they were going.
Is it like jurors then, though? Like, Are the ones that are for and the ones that are against, or whatever it is that they're talking, am I then trying to convince that side? You said they separate. Do you have to come out with one?
No.
It's just majority.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a
I
simple
see.
majority.
But then
4-3.
can I go back and forth, or can
Absolutely.
I sway? Or
Yeah, sometimes that happens. What starts out as a 4-3 decision, say affirming or reinforcing what the Court of Appeals did, after deliberation, after an opinion might get drafted and shared and circulated among all the justices, somebody could flip. And then suddenly what
see.
was a dissenting opinion can become the majority opinion, or vice versa.
But Becky, were you guys writing the opinions sometimes?
We were drafting, no
Right.
question. Yeah,
Right.
we were drafting, and then the judge would always put her finishing touches.
Yeah.
And
So, and in terms of, so while you're drafting, are you also outlining the arguments, or I guess not the arguments, but like putting the scaffolding in for how to reach the conclusion that the judge?
Of course,
Right.
of course. Although a lot of that is done. I mean, by the time a case gets accepted for review by the Supreme Court, the briefing on this is
Right.
voluminous.
Sure.
And so even the least experienced lawyer who's appearing in front of the Supreme Court has really put a ton of effort
Right.
into putting together briefs. So you typically have pretty good product that's
Yeah.
coming out. Not always,
Right.
but pretty good.
And
So
does the judge align her staff, like you, probably in the right mind and beliefs that they are?
Nope.
No?
She had no
Okay.
clue what my beliefs were.
You know, I
And-
was wondering if they
Yeah.
yeah, some do. Some
mold
probably
them
do.
or select them.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sticking to my
Oh,
I'm sticking to
boy.
my position that you guys have tremendous influence, or had. And part of the reason that I say that is from reading the books written by former clerks at the U.S. Supreme Court.
That's a different.
Is that a different situation?
That's a different beast. That's
Yeah?
a whole different beast. Most cases are that you stop at the
state level.
Supreme Court.
Okay.
Mhm. Unless there are federal issues, or unless there's some nuances that come up in some exceptions that
Okay.
are really more boring
Well,
for lawyers than.
But it's, I mean, because I have no ounce other than my suits. You know, I mean, I thought that was very fascinating to walk through that process.
It is. It's a
Yeah.
really cool process, and it was a great. It was almost 2 years that I was there, and I loved every minute of it.
What made you leave?
The same thing that made it great made me want to leave it. You are always speaking through your judge, and there were plenty of cases where maybe I didn't disagree completely in the outcome, although there were a couple of those, but I might disagree with certain components of it. But the reality was, as long as I was a law clerk or staff attorney, it was always her decision, as it should be.
Right,
It was
right.
always her opinion. And I was really chomping at the bit to really be my own person, and like I'd had great training ground, but I was ready to sort of dive into the ditches and start taking my own cases and making my own arguments.
Okay.
So then you went to Benish.
Then I went to Benish.
Okay.
I had the good fortune, thanks to the clerkship, to interview in a bunch of different places. And I connected. It was about people. That's how I've taken all my positions. A guy named Steve Williger was the then chair of the litigation practice group. He was a 43-year-old young punk. And we just clicked. We clicked. I was ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work and not be somebody sitting in a closet doing more research and more briefs, and it just wasn't going to be my fit. And so that's what I did for 4 years.
Litigating.
Litigating. Part of the trial team. Benish was great. It's a good
It's a
group.
great firm.
It is a great firm.
Yeah.
And I still have a lot of good friends there, and they were good to me. And I loved working in my team. But ultimately, it just wasn't a good fit for me. I felt chronically like, we were going back to the stress conversation, like the emergency room physician, where people come in, clients come in, they're angry, they're upset, they're disgusted about being there. And our goal is to sort of triage the situation, patch up the problem, get them back out. And I was really missing the opportunity to have been there for some of the preventative work they could have done, and then to have been there post-problem to help ensure that they fixed what was broken or what was
Right.
off. So I wanted something more, and that's when I made the decision to move in-house.
And where'd you go?
And then I went to Key Bank. I went to Key Bank. I spent 10 years at Key.
Wow.
And I was hired by the then Deputy General Counsel, a guy by the name of John Mancuso. And he hired me almost on the spot when I went in, this is a true story, to interview. And he couldn't find my resume, and he's not a tall man, but big in personality and attitude, and certainly brains. And he was looking for my resume, couldn't find it, and he was barking out to his secretary, "Gail, Gail." And he said, just start talking to me. Start with college. Tell me who you are. Start with college.
Wow.
And I said, I went to Smith College. And he said, that's it. Smith College. That's why I wanted to meet you. And I'm like, okay. And he said, I love movies. My favorite line in a movie is about Smith College. And I don't know what made me do it, except I said, I know the movie.
I can't wait to hear this.
Hey, look,
what is it?
It's from the movie White Christmas. And it's where Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye are at the beginning phases where Danny's like, you need a woman, you need to get out and date and get a life. And Bing is critiquing Danny for the quality of women that he's bringing to him. And Danny says, okay, so she didn't go to Smith. And Bing says, go to Smith. She can't even spell Smith.
Oh, my God.
So it's a family, long
That's
before I went to
hilarious.
Smith, it's a family must-do every holiday. I knew the lines, I got hired.
That is
So 10 years later.
amazing.
Yeah, 10 years later I made it.
And the fact that you selected that college based on just getting as far away from Ohio as you could.
It's a fluke.
That is crazy. Gosh, God has a plan.
Yes.
He knows what he's doing.
No
man.
question.
Is 10 years a long time to be at an in-house counsel someplace?
It depends on where you go. When I left Key Bank, among my peer managers, I was still the youngest kid or the newest kid. There were some that had 20 plus, 30 plus years reaching back. But certainly other places there's much higher turnover. It just depends on corporate culture. It was a great company. I reached a point in my life where Natalie came along in the middle of all that, and I was on the road 50 to 60% of my life. And Natalie's dad was traveling at the time like crazy, and so I decided I really wanted to have my feet closer to home. So it wasn't about leaving the bank; it was about finding something that I could do that was
what
more
was that
manageable.
something?
That's I left and became the general counsel at Tri-C, Cuyahoga Community College.
Oh.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It was excellent. It was a huge transition. It was totally different. Talk about a different environment. As much as I loved the bank, I was really looking for, aside from sort of a more manageable life, I was really looking for an organization that I could buy into its mission. And Tri-C then and now does amazing things to give opportunities to people that, for some, there would be no other opportunity for advanced education. And I am a huge believer that education gives opportunity.
Man, we were talking about this before you came in. You really have this thing, Becky, of working for organizations that have a giant impact on the city, right? I don't know I'm guessing that was kind of intentional.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
mean, right? And
Yeah.
Tri-C is a huge player in this town and where it's going and where its people work.
It's a huge economic force.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an economic force of today, and it's also the economic force of our future workforce. And in fact, we're involved in conversations now through the Bar Association about how do we broaden our reach through collaboration with Tri-C as we think about not just the lawyer workforce, but the broader legal workforce, whether it's paralegals or project management, some of the back office stuff. But how do we create more robust offerings so as to really drive people where the profession is going? So, yeah, I've been very fortunate to be able to be involved with organizations that have had real impact. And there's no question that I sort of, have been intentional in making those choices.
Yeah. You just said the magic words to the segue that I was going to use, which is where the profession is going.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
So where is the legal profession going?
Well, it's definitely going forward. I think what we saw after 2008, when we saw sort of this shakeup in the economy, there were lots of sort of doomsdayers that were coming out talking about the demise of the legal profession in a variety of different capacities. And I don't subscribe to that. I think what's been happening is we've been evolving. I think that the market conditions have required us to take a look at who we are and where we're going. Big firms are always going to be here. There is always going to be a place for big firms. Not necessarily every big firm that's out there right now, but there will always be a place for big firms to be serving the sort of really high-end client. But even within the big firms, they're shifting. You see some around town that are really making intentional efforts about changing their dynamic. But we've seen, in many instances, fewer opportunities for lawyers to pursue big firm life. They're really shrinking their incoming classes, some of them, and have been for a period of years. So we've seen the rise of smaller and mid-sized law firms, which has been exciting and also scary because as you look at the newest generation, there were an awful lot of new graduates coming out of law school who thought they were going to get jobs in law firms, but because of the economic shift, those jobs weren't there, and so they had to pay bills. They had to find a way to make the world happen now that they had their law degree, and so they started hanging up their own shingles. So we have seen lots of move towards small and solo law firms that have created all this, as we were going back earlier to talk about, need to provide better support, better connections, better access for lawyers who don't have the resources that a ginormous firm has with their marketing staff and their billing departments and their docket clerks, but they got to do it all themselves. And oh, by the way, they still got to run a business, and they got to still give great quality legal services to their clients. We're also seeing, the re-expansion in some instances in corporate legal departments. There was a time when I first went to Key Bank, we had about 100 lawyers around the country, and then they really constricted. I don't remember how low they got, maybe 60 or so. Some companies are really building back corporate in-house corporate counsel because they want to keep that work in-house, thinking that nobody knows my business better than somebody who's living it inside. Others are making a decision that they don't want in-house counsel. What they'd really rather do is outsource to great folks like the Gertzberg Law Firm and have you come be their eyes and ears for them. Technology has been a huge disruptor. It's going to continue to disrupt what's happening.
Because everyone thinks they can do their own research and...
That's some of it. Forms, access to model documents. What do you need a lawyer for to draft a will? When you can get one for free out on the internet somewhere, just hit Google.
Well, it's when you leave that period out and your stepchild gets all the your whatever is because you left.
That's exactly
I would
right.
Never.
Well, I'll tell you. I think that you have never had more power as a client than you do today in the relationship between lawyers and clients, because there are a lot more lawyers who are innovative and are looking to take care of you, right? I think it used to be that clients would bring their legal matter to a lawyer, and the lawyer would put an engagement letter in front of them and say, I charge $500 an hour, I need a $5,000 retainer, and the client feels vulnerable and says, I'm in trouble, I need help, and they'll sign whatever. But today, there are a lot more different kinds of players in the legal market, and so you've never had more power, and then if you're a lawyer today, you've never had more opportunity, because there's so many different ways to serve clients today than I think than there used to be.
So are you telling me that I might be able to go to a lawyer's office, a law firm, and get like a massage as I'm going over my legal issues?
I love this idea.
Because I am all on it. I am, because you're bringing in the stress.
That's right.
Stressed. I'm your client. I'm coming in with my problem. I'm stressed. Put me into the massage room.
Well, so next time
and
I
have
come,
a girl take my story.
Instead of Scrabble in this office, we
Alex,
should have chair massages.
I'm telling you, it's right there.
So it's funny that you say that, because we haven't started offering that yet, but like one of the things that we do differently, right, is we bring champagne to closings.
Very nice.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just to kind of make it a little bit more special and
Lovely.
a little more ceremonial, right?
I love that.
Maybe the massage is next, though.
But you have to get them when they come in. Like, that's the first. You know what?
Like, let's relax you.
Right.
Let me calm down.
Let me put you in the room for 10 minutes.
Right. It's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Could
it be called the Molly Room?
Maybe.
Okay.
We also forgot the rainbow babies.
Oh, you did.
You're on the
and
board.
I did too. Yes. So that's my newest board. I love board service, and I went on about 2 years ago, and I didn't know the history of it until they invited me. It's always been women who have served on Rainbow Babies board. The Rainbow was founded by women, and it has always been steered by women inside the boardroom. 111 women in the history of the organization.
There's no legality against that?
There is no legality against that. And it's an incredible group of women who come focused on one issue, which is to make healthcare for, as we say, the babies better. And so my role that I get to play is predominantly as an advocate about all the great works that they're doing. I also do some fundraising. We've got an event, our third annual Circle of Friends event that I do with somebody that's going to be at the Wine Bar in Rocky River in October, which will be a fun gig. But it's really, They do tremendous fundraising work, and that's what that board does, is fundraise and friend-raise to support the incredible work that Rainbow does.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
my
And
goal, is to get on a board. So if anyone's listening,
Molly, I can help
and
you with
they
that
have a
too.
board, I would really like to get on the board of somewhere, because that to me shows that you're valued.
You're the executive director of a giant chamber
I
of
have my
commerce.
own board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have
your
my own
board. Listen,
so I know all the things not to do.
Well, I can help you, but the other folks that can really help you, and I'll make an introduction for you, are Business Volunteers
Yeah.
Unlimited. If you don't know BVU, you need to know BVU.
Okay, I don't.
So they have their fingers on the pulse of the nonprofit community, and among other things, they do training, board training of different types. But they connect folks just like you who have an interest in serving on nonprofit boards with nonprofits that are looking for board members.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of nonprofits, before we go any farther,
Yes,
right?
you're
so,
having a great seminar. And must I say,
Yeah.
that marketing piece.
It's cool.
Who did that logo?
That was Jeff Wu.
Jeff
He's our
Wu.
dude. So,
Wow. It just is eye-catching.
fabulous.
It's right over there. It's just
yeah,
eye-catching.
we've gotten a really good response. So one of the things on there, one of the topics is strategic planning.
I love strategic
yeah.
planning. Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. Yeah, so every organization that I've been a part of at a leadership level and a board level, I've had the opportunity to go through strategic planning. So I've done it more than once.
Yeah.
Seen where it's worked and hasn't worked.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and the doesn't work.
Yeah, the ones where
It's getting your board to embrace it,
Yeah.
and that's
You-
a tough.
well, it's a combination. It's getting your board to embrace it, no question, but it's also then getting your board and your leadership team on the staff to drive it forward once it's been embraced. But you're right. If you don't get board
'Cause I
buy-in,
just became a nag.
yeah.
I just became a nag.
The thing about that is, right, is that if you don't get it right, it's a colossal waste of time.
Yes,
And
it's
money.
And
And
money.
money,
It's a
big money.
giant energy suck.
Correct.
And everybody has to contribute to it, and then it just sits on a shelf
Yep.
for years, right? But if you get it right, I mean, that is the engine behind your organization. So
And what's the date of that, Alex?
September 12th at the Idea Center at Playhouse Square. It's going to be awesome. There's already been a lot of people RSVPing.
Great.
Yeah. So, which, by the way, you're going to want to go to gertzberglaw.com events, and then you'll see
Yes.
it there.
Very cool.
Okay. Did we forget anything else before the lightning round?
I don't think so. Did we go over all the things that she would like us to cover?
Dun, dun, dun. We did. Although I'll say,
Any events coming up?
yeah, I've given you a few.
Okay.
I will tell you that one of the, you're going to ask me in a second what my greatest success has been.
Yes.
And I'm not allowed to say that it's Natalie,
Right.
even though it is Natalie,
Yes.
of
Right.
course.
Well, we
Correct.
all know that it's
That's
Natalie,
understood.
Yes, that's understood.
but Natalie knows that it's Natalie.
Yeah, and I am a true believer that my greatest success of all I have yet to do. So it's in the future. But in terms of where I am right now, one of the things that we're launching next month in September is one of my personal satisfactions, which is we're launching a leadership academy at the Bar Association. So lawyers, if you look at any board, we're talking boards, if you look at any organization, board-wise or senior leadership-wise, lawyers are everywhere. But leadership is not taught in law school.
Yeah.
Much like practice management, how to run a business isn't taught, so too leadership is not taught.
Yeah.
And so as part of our strategic planning process that we went through, we spent a ton of time focused on what the value add is. What does our association give? And the one that kept coming up again and again and again was teaching lawyers how to lead.
Yeah.
But we could be more intentional. And so we're launching a 10-month leadership academy that we've built. We advertised, we got a number of applications. We had a panel, we went through this competitive process, and we ended up with 18 lawyers who are in our established leader ranks, which are people who've been out 15 years or more practicing law. And then we have an emerging leader, which is about 5 years plus worth of practice. And we're really excited. I am personally excited. When I interviewed for the ED job for the Bar Association, it was part of my pitch of where I would want us to take the Bar Association. So it's taken 2.5 years, but we are launching it, and it's shaping up to be absolutely fantastic. And it's a combination of what we're doing from the inside out, and then it's also, again, collaborating and bringing partners in, like BVU, who I just mentioned, like a couple of executive coaches, like some folks from Weatherhead who are going to talk about being an inclusive leader and what that looks like and feels like.
And you look like a movie star, and now I think
Oh,
I
if
just
only.
remembered who it is, but we'll go with the lightning rounds. I think it was John Travolta's first wife.
Fascinating.
I know, and I'll look while
that?
Was
we're.
it not Olivia Newton-John?
No.
They weren't married.
They weren't?
Although I just bought my tickets for Olivia Newton-John at the Roxino, just so you know.
Molly, you know how to live.
Oh, on the
can't wait
edge.
to
Let's get physical,
On
baby.
the edge.
Let's get physical.
On the edge.
I can't wait to
yes.
find out what
I
movie
know.
star you look like,
I
Becky.
can't wait to either.
Her,
I don't know who that is.
First
All I
name
can think of is
might
Kelly
be
Preston, but
Becky.
that's the current one. Wasn't it? Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll find her, but keep going.
All
Sorry.
right, lightning round questions.
Okay.
Here they come. Ready?
I cheated. I already gave you the success.
So the biggest success is the Leadership Academy?
To date.
Okay.
To date. If you won't let me say Natalie, actually what I would say is truly my biggest success is landing in the Bar Association. This ED role is the culmination for me of everything I wanted. My feet are still very much in the law. My heart gets to run all of these community service and pro bono programs, which I just love, and to collaborate. And if my head, I run a business. And I run my business, which was something that was missing for me as an in-house counsel. I was in all those lawsuits. You learn sort of what the company is doing well and what it's not doing well. And routinely, I was encouraged to stay in my lawyer lane and not cross over into the business realm. And I was chomping at the bit to run a business. So to have the chance to run a business and to run it with
Yeah.
the team that I work with is just the best.
Okay. Biggest failure, defining failure any way you want to define it.
So I warned Natalie that you were going to ask me this question because when I look over my life, I can't think of a lot of failures. I mean, there have been dumb things that I've done. There are stupid things.
I want to hear about those.
Yeah. There are mistakes that I've made, no question. But I have always understood that to succeed, I had to fail.
Right.
So I don't really look at them as failures. There is one notable exception, and that is Natalie's dad and I are no longer together. So that's a big one. That's not what I had anticipated, and we separated last year, so it's been a big transition for us. But we're better, we're happier, we're moving forward. Natalie's doing well, but that definitely is top
Yeah.
of the list.
Learning experience, that's what I call that.
Oh,
Learning
character
experience.
building, learning
Yeah.
experience.
Character building, there
Yes.
you go. Good. Molly, would you like to ask your lightning round question?
Yes, I would, Alex. Thank you so much.
No, Molly, thank you.
A woman, an influential woman in your life.
Yeah, I have been blessed to have influential women all over my life. There's no question my mom was the first. My mother was a pediatrician. My kid is saying me. Now, yes, you're not a woman yet. You're only 12. Thank you, dear.
Yes,
Let's
slow
wait.
it down.
Let's wait.
Can we just say that the eye rolling from Natalie
Yes.
just now when your mom said you're not a woman yet
Yeah.
was epic. That was
Yeah.
the best eye roll I think I've ever
Well,
seen.
she is her mother's daughter. I have no one to blame but myself. I've taught her well. Look, my mom right out of the gate, my mother was a pediatrician at a time where first of all, she did undergrad in 3 years, goes to medical school in a class of 150 where there were 4 women. And she came out at a time where women
Unheard
weren't
of.
doing it. It was unheard of. And then she had 4 of us and raised us and was very involved. Not always involved because one can only do so much. But she really was a tremendous example and still is. She's fabulous. Yeah. But my dad, I have to say, I mentioned he was one of 10 kids. He also had sisters who were very strong-willed. So the 4 of them, the mighty 4, were just from an early age. We always knew that our aunts were some of our best advocates. And one in particular, my Aunt Janet, was my dad's youngest sister. Never got married, never had kids. Every niece, every nephew was her own child. And so from the earliest, whether it was my mom or my dad's sisters, I was so fortunate to grow up in an environment where we had strong women around. And it's why, frankly, while I have many, many good friends, there's no question my life is defined by the incredible friendships that I have had lifelong with many women.
So,
Beautiful.
we used to ask this one lightning round question, then we stopped. But I really want to. I really want to ask you this.
So the question is, did we really stop?
Well, until now, we paused.
The last time was a week ago.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no, we haven't asked it in ages and ages.
No?
And and the question was, do you ever have like limiting beliefs, right? Like you're working on giant things. Do you ever like say this is too hard?
No.
Or like the thought.
No.
The question was. Let me finish. Hang on a second. Like when
He's limiting me now.
I know, right?
The idea is the question is how do you overcome like the obstacles that come up and that really make you struggle internally with them, right? Like where you go, man, this is, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
do you ever hit a wall and you think, this is too hard. Why am I doing this? Maybe I should turn around. And then, so that's part A of that question. And part B is, then what do you do about it?
That's a big question. So here's, I'm going to answer it, but in a roundabout kind of way. When I was a senior in high school, there was a guy, his name was Bill Fisher, and I went to a very small high school. There were only 69 of us in our graduating class. And Bill, in December, right before Christmas, committed suicide on a random night for like just one of those out of control evenings for really no reason. But he had a bad day. And then he had a few bad days before that. And he was the guy that everybody loved. He was the guy that everybody liked. And I was friends with him, but wasn't close friends with him, but was friends with him. And it was such a profoundly life-altering experience for me because at the time I was going through, as every teenager goes through their own stuff. And I remember sitting in the church during his funeral thinking, if he had just waited one day, if he had just lived one more day, a bunch of good things were going to happen to him. But he didn't know, and so he didn't live long enough to get it. So the truth is, on a regular basis, if I hit those walls, if they come up, what I tell myself is, if I can live one more day, I will have a different view. Some aspect will change, and I may not be able to get right through that wall, but I'm sure as heck going to figure out how to get around it or get over it.
I love it. Yeah. See, I'm glad I asked that question. Okay, the last lightning round question, and clearly the most important, by far.
Dun, dun, dun.
By far. Natalie,
Yes.
pay attention. This is big.
Yeah, we may have to have Natalie leave the room if we want the
Possibly. That's a good point.
I always speak the truth in front of Natalie.
A super embarrassing thing that nobody knows about you.
Or Natalie can tell it for us if she doesn't give the right one.
Yeah, we're gonna hear it. We're gonna get it out of you, one of you guys, one way or the other.
Well, I did forewarn her because this was the other question I knew you were going to ask. So I did forewarn her because I didn't want her laughing out loud or weeping for me and telling it. But she had never heard it until we were driving over here. You know, the strangest things happen when you're a kid. So when I was about 16, I had my bestie cousin in the world. My mom's younger sister, Margie is her name. I'm an April baby in 67.
April what?
13th. You?
Oh, I'm September.
Oh, okay. Well, she's September 16th.
3rd.
Okay, there you go. And anyway, Margie was madly in love with a boy, and we went to a party of this boy. We went to different schools in Columbus, and we were in this party, and there were all these kids, and there was one boy that was just magnificent. I don't know what it was, but there was something that caused me to have a reaction that I had never had before, which was this boy was really something. And it was the first for me. I had a little crush, but it was a wow moment. And I can still see him across the room. And like our eyes met, and it was like this, hey. So
is he a member of the Cleveland Metropolitan Bar Association?
He's not.
Okay.
He's not. So this party unfolds, and we're sort of doing our thing and chitty-chatting, and periodically I look up, and he's looking at me, and he's got this little smile on his face, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this can't be happening. And, you know, these romantic 16-year-olds, I'm sort of thinking, look at this, true love is happening at this ripe old age. Anyway, it continued for a little while until we ended up next to each other, and I had worked up my courage at that point and said, hi. And he said, hi, and he started to laugh as he said hi. And I said, I'm Becky. And he said, hey, Becky, your zipper's open.
Awesome.
Yeah, it still gets me. It still gets me. I have no idea what his name was. I have no idea who.
Really?
That's how it ended? That
was
wasn't the
so
beginning of a giant...
Mortified. I was so mortified. That was it. It still makes me blush to think about
Oh my gosh, we need to find him on Facebook or something.
That's
Didn't
it.
anyone know him?
it. Nope. I didn't want to after that.
Oh.
The humiliation ran so deep.
Oh
That's
my
outstanding.
Gosh, that's awesome. Oh.
That's a great way to end this
Sure
podcast.
is. Zipper's open.
Your zipper is open.
But I bet you it's never been open after that.
How do you know that?
Yeah, you're probably that person that goes
That's
up on stage and does one of
exactly
these.
right.
Like
Double
OCD,
check,
yeah.
baby. Double check.
All right.
Well, this has been a pleasure.
Thank you guys
Awesome
for joining us. To meet you.
So great.
At last, Molly, I've listened to your voice for so long and admired you from afar. It's wonderful to meet you.
Probably want to go back to just the voice only.
I don't. I'm thinking of all the ways I'm going to help you get connected, and your sister.
That.
Molly, we know that your pumpkin documentary.
I've officially been accepted. My
That's
two.
the big
Congratulations!
announcement.
Thank you. I'm a filmmaker.
That's big time,
Very
that's
proud,
huge.
yes. Thank
Nice
you.
job. It's going to be at Cannes and Sundance very soon.
Yes, and I do want to make mention on That's My Jam, which you'll have to join me.
I'd love
on
to.
That's My Jam. We sing in the car.
Fun.
And for the month of August, we're doing it donations for J.O., who is a South Russell police officer's son. He's 3 and dealing with leukemia.
Where do they go to see that, Molly?
They can go to That's My Jam on Facebook, or they can email me on that'smyjamfun@gmail.com. And all you have to do is it's not about being good. It's about having fun and helping J.O. with his medical expenses. So
awesome.
So come sing with me the month of August. Pick a song. It's a one take. There's no edits.
What a great idea.
Yeah,
that's
good
fabulous.
stuff.
That's easy.
So, Alex, you're yet to join me.
Yeah,
in the car,
I'm
FYI.
really self-conscious about my singing abilities. I mean, I like
I am
doing
not good
it
at
when no
all.
one's around. You know?
No one is going to be around. It's just going to be me.
And is that a wall that you can't overcome?
Yes,
Alex.
Come on.
I don't know.
We solve problems.
Well, and here's the other thing too. Like I
He
feel like
feels that because I know exactly where he's going right now. He feels that since he's an attorney, he has some sort of level that he needs to keep. My sister's done it. I've had the superintendent of Chagrin Falls Schools do it. Who else is of the stature that Alex feels that we need to?
that's not it
big
at all.
shots.
Yeah,
Plenty
the
of
big
big
shots.
All right, so first of all, if I went on, I would do Sabotage by the Beastie Boys, and I definitely would not hire me
That
to be
is
their
not going
lawyer
to
if
happen.
they saw that.
That's not going to happen in my car.
Well, that's the only way I'm doing it.
You don't pull the shots. This is That's My Jam.
Could it be That's Our
You
Jam?
and I will collaborate on a song that we both know the word. Today I just did when I ran to Mayfield and did a quick little one. I did Drift Away, the original Drift Away, no Uncle Cracker Crack, just the original Drift Away.
Here's all I'm saying. If we did the Beastie Boys, I could be like Ad Rock and you could be Mike D.
But give me another one. I mean, Beastie Boys was my time, but
Right.
I don't know
Instead
the
of
song
Sabotage?
you're singing.
Oh, Sabotage is it's one of their best ones ever.
Can you sing a little bit?
Yeah, why don't you give us
I'm
just
not-
a little
all right, let's
flavor?
all right,
Preview.
That's
A
enough.
preview.
That's enough.
We'll
Oh,
get you in the
sure.
car. I'd love to have you in the car.
Thank you.
Where's your office? Downtown?
Yeah,
I'll come
come on, easy.
downtown and meet you. We could drive around
What
Cleveland and
fun.
sing it. And
What a ride.
I would love to
It's a
have
great
you join.
idea.
See?
Folks at home, come and visit us at thebestpodcastever.com and then we've got a Facebook page and you're supposed to like it. Nellie gave us specific instructions on how to do this and we screw it up every time, Holly. It's like us on Facebook, subscribe on the website.
Correct. And then you'll be notified when any of them drop.
Right. Smoke signals to your friends.
Yes.
Tell everyone how awesome this podcast
Correct.
is. What else?
Share it on your Facebook.
Yes. Any other announcements, Becky?
Best podcast ever.
There you go. Oh, that was
You
awesome.
said it all.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll
Yes.
catch you next time. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again to the Gertzberg Law Firm for sponsoring Best Podcast Ever. Don't forget to visit gertzberglaw.com to see how the firm is changing the attorney-client relationship. Gertzberg Law Firm. We solve problems.